Welcome to another edition of the Wonderbury podcast.
I'm Brian.
And I'm a pissed off dad.
You can find us online at wonderbury.com.
You can find me on YouTube at Open Darkwing.
And you can find me outside because it's finally almost warm.
It was warm yesterday until the storm hit.
Yeah.
Then it cooled off here again.
Yeah, we were supposed to have a bunch of storms and then we didn't. And then it still got cold. Like it was down to 30 overnight, but we're back to 40 right now. So I am literally just I'm sitting outside. My office is outside today.
Nice.
I fell into the trap. I've been telling everybody for like the last month. Everybody's like, "Oh, spring's coming," and I'm like, "No, you got tricked. You got fool spring." Like, there was times where people were out wearing shorts, and I'm like, "Not yet. Like, we got one more winter coming." But then today, I'm like, "God damn, I just want to be outside. I don't have shits to give no more."
Yeah, it looks like in the 10-day forecast for me, today's going to be the coldest day at a high of 53. I mean, by the weekend, it's supposed to be in the 60s. By next weekend, it's supposed to be in the 80s. So there's that, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah, we had that bad storm. Was that over the weekend?
Yeah.
That ripped through fun. With tornadoes everywhere from frickin' Mississippi all the way through. There was one that dropped like right outside the city limits of Fort Wayne on the east side.
We were just south of Indianapolis for a funeral.
You guys get pounded down there.
Yeah, we had a tornado come out like a mile and a half just north of us, I think. And we were in the hotel. We just cracked open some drinks. We were ready to just like sit down, watch a movie and stuff for the night. And yeah, tornado warning goes off, sirens going off. We're like, of course, we go downstairs and go outside. We're looking around like, meh. And all of a sudden, it's like everything's black. You can't see nothing. Like lightning strikes, and you see the clouds, and the clouds don't look nice. I'm like,
Well, the clouds yesterday was a bit. They were a bit weird yesterday. Ended up petering out, but you had the rolling wall clouds. We had like 3 waves of rolling wall clouds that looked like an ocean or a lake, like a wave, the way it was rolling. And I was just like, oh man, we're gonna get pounded. And then it ended up not because of how the pressures ended up interacting and all that stuff. But it was a bit nerve-wracking for a bit. That's for sure.
Yeah, the one Friday we ended up bunkered down in the like laundry room of the hotel with a bunch of guests. So that was fun.
Oh yeah. No, it wasn't terrible. It was just like in the middle of the night. So we ended up coming downstairs. I woke my dad up and had him and my stepmom and my brother go down in their basement because they're there south of town. Like that, I was worried about them because they're out of the country. Here in the city, I'm not worried. Like I'm worried about high winds knocking one of our trees over. Like that's the worst that I'm worried about where I'm at. I don't think, as deep as I am in the city, I don't think a tornado would sustain through the heart of downtown Fort Wayne long enough for it to really affect me too badly. Yeah. I'm more worried just about the high winds that would knock trees over. Yep. The actual tornado itself, there's a lot of stuff that has to happen for tornadoes that can't really happen that well where I'm at.
Yeah, I had thought about that where we were, but I didn't know the area, and it looked like we were, there's like a small town there, but then like we're surrounded by fields. It looked like, so I had no idea really.
Yeah, anywhere in the outskirts, but I also think that the rivers like tornadoes don't like jumping rivers very well. And with
Uh,
all the rivers and stuff that we have here in Fort Wayne, it's not. I don't think it's terrible. Like I think there's enough weird land shit that the city is fairly protected. I'm not gonna say it's completely protected because once they get so big, nothing is.
yeah.
But you know, when you're out surrounded by cornfields or you live in a trailer park, I don't know why that God hates trailer parks as much as he does, but holy shit is, you know, what's that old saying? God controls everything, so why God sends tornadoes to go wipe out trailer parks, I don't know. And that's the argument, right? If God's in
Yep.
control of everything, then he controls everything.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I don't know why he sends his tornadoes to go wipe out trailer parks so much, but he does. Just as a fair warning, throughout this episode in multiple places, I don't know if I'm going to go off on one giant tangent at once or if I'm going to filter it in. I'm a little pissed off at my state at the moment. So I'm going to say this right now. We usually don't get religiously on this podcast, and we don't usually get too political on this podcast. That's probably going to change today. Just as a fair warning to anyone listening. I don't know when it's going to happen, but at some point it's going to boil over. It's going to happen, and things are going to get political, and things are probably going to get. There's going to be religious tossed involved.
Yeah.
Unless we just want to
Well,
get it out of the way early, and then we can figure it the fuck out. But
what I gotta tell you about specifically the Circle K, I guess, where we were.
yeah,
We were in Franklin. We were right off of I-65. Um, Kirsty had me looking for hotels, and I wasn't like sure where to pick, so I was just like looking around, and I noticed there was a Waffle House on the exit. I was like, "Oh, sweet! I'm getting a hotel there." I literally picked the hotel that was right next door to it, like same parking lot kind of situation. So, in case you're wondering how I pick hotels, it's proximity to a Waffle House. But
there's that Waffle House scale.
yeah. So yeah, picked that hotel. Right across the street was a Circle K. And we went in there, like got some, got some stuff, and we were checking out. And they have this little platform next to the register. So you take all your stuff, you sit it on the platform, and it automatically rings everything up. Like there's no scanning. The lady doesn't scan it or anything. She's just standing there. She's like, okay, your total's this, like 28.75 or whatever. That's there was no scanning, no real interacting with her. Like we just sat everything on this giant plate, and it knew what all was there. It was wild.
Okay, so I know we just made the joke about the Waffle House scale or whatever.
Hmm.
I just decided, just as you were telling the story, I wanted to look it up, just because I've always heard it, but I didn't know. I just thought it was always a tongue in cheek thing.
No.
Uh, the Waffle House Index is what it's called. It's an informal metric named after ubiquitous Southern U.S. restaurant chain Waffle House, which has gone beyond just Southern U.S., but whatever. I don't know how many guesses. Do you know the story about this, of where it started, or how it became part of our curriculum, or in the lexicon or whatever? Do you know the story behind this?
I don't. I know what it is, and I kind of know how it works, but I don't know
Good.
how it came
Okay.
about.
Then I'm gonna do this in the form of a little bit of fun trivia, because I want to see how close you are to the actual origins of this. How do you think it started? Like it got popular enough to be that everyone seems to know what this is.
Mhm.
I'll give you one guess, and then because I don't think in a million years you'll even come close to what it actually is.
TikTok.
Oh
Tik
no.
TikTok related.
No, 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 no. And not, and I'll even give you this, not even social media related.
Mm.
It was coined by the former administrator of FEMA, Craig Ferget, in an official FEMA blog talking about connections, or the title of it was, "What do Waffle Houses have to do with risk management?"
Oh yeah, I remember reading that.
FEMA is the one that started it because they found a connection of Waffle House staying open or reopening after a natural disaster to give a risk management barometer on how a community is doing and how businesses are doing after a disaster. Because it was in 2011, following the Joplin tornado, because during that fucking tornado, two Waffle Houses in Joplin remained open throughout the entire thing.
Yeah.
So yeah, Dan Stoking, the FEMA director of external affairs, he wrote in another FEMA blog post, or that FEMA blog post that I was talking about. He says, as Craig Ferget, referring the director of FEMA or the administrator of FEMA, often says, the Waffle House test doesn't just tell us how quickly a business might rebound. It also tells us how the larger community is faring. The sooner restaurants, grocery store, and corner stores open, the sooner local economies start gathering revenue again, signaling a strong recovery for that community. The success of the private sector in preparing for and weathering disasters is essential to communities' ability to recover in the long run. So, in the use of how restaurants reopen, Waffle House Index is the index of how well a community is doing.
Mm-hmm.
So there's three levels. There's the green, which is the full menu, which means the restaurant has power and damage minimal or absent. They have the yellow level, that power is either absent or delivered by a generator and the food supplies are running low. And then red is the restaurant is closed, so it indicates severe damage or severe flooding or severe destruction to the restaurant.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
it was coined and run by FEMA. And I don't think if you would have given me 1,000 guesses and $1 million for the right guess, I would have ever come up with the administrator of FEMA. Because that is fucking hilarious.
Yeah. Um, I think from my understanding too, they have like their own weather-based tracking stuff. They also do like in areas of severe storms, they take food and employees in and will set up shop and like start cooking for people
Yeah.
because they're extremely efficient in how they do stuff. So
Oh, yeah. They're amazing.
yeah, I love me a good Waffle House. The one that we had next to our hotel was freaking amazing. Like the people were singing to the radio and dancing and having a good time and bickering with customers. Like there's just banter going on. It was hilarious and awesome.
That's good. That's a
Yep.
good sign that the people that work there really enjoy what they're, not only what they're doing, but the people they're doing it with.
Yep.
If you want to know how a manager is, look to see how the staff interacts with each other.
Mm-hmm.
Because even in the shittiest jobs, staff interacting with each other in a good way means that the management is really good.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
So yeah,
You
support your local Waffle House.
well, yeah, support your local, not just Waffle House, support any local restaurants and businesses and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes what you'll find, especially now, is that the food isn't that much more expensive, and it's usually so much better than anything else out there. And I kind of separate things like Waffle Houses away from the other, like, and I'm not going to say this about all fast food places, but or all chains. But a lot of times, what you'll end up having in a chain restaurant style or situation is that you'll have prepackaged food that comes in and everything is prepared identical.
Yeah.
Waffle houses and other of those, like especially breakfast things, there's so many little things that a cook can, even though it's the same menu, that a cook can twist or do differently that changes a lot of stuff that happens on a menu and the food that you get. And that's true with any sit down type restaurant, really, is that the cooks have a lot to do with being able to do that. If everything is just fry cook or, you know, take all this stuff, run it through this processor and stack it the right way, you're not going to get much variance between one McDonald's and another.
Yeah.
You could get some really good variance between any place that you sit down to eat from another, even if it's in a chain. At least that's the way I look at it. I could be completely wrong, but
I don't.
I'm also the hoity-toity guy.
Yeah.
I was
I
thinking about
don't.
that the other day.
I don't usually like chains, but there's also a lot of like. Um, we went to a local place there in Franklin, and they had biscuits and gravy, but
Oh yeah.
it was gluten free. So like the biscuits were like grainy.
Ew. It's like chewing
Yeah,
sand.
yeah,
Yeah.
it was weird.
That's a bit it's a bit rough. That's never good. Oh man. No, you mentioned staying at what kind of hotel did you guys stay at?
The Quality Inn.
Oh, okay. So I have a thing with hotels. And this is good. This is going to push me to sound absolutely fucking elitist and stuff. But I now have a new system of hotels and staying places. And
Okay.
this is how I grade and I judge hotels and whether or not I'm going to have a good time staying at a place. If the door to your hotel room opens outside to the outside world, I'm probably not going to stay there. If the door opens up into a hallway inside of a building, I'm much more happy at those places.
Mm,
And I know that's going to sound terrible, but I will spend the extra $30 a night to stay at a place where the doors open inside inside a building instead of outside to the outside world.
I don't
Just
know.
saying.
It depends on where they are. I think more. I think the difference is a hotel versus a motel, right? Like a
No,
hotel
that's
is
that's that's
more.
exactly. I think that's exactly what it is. I think technically a motel, the building is just the rooms, and a hotel is that it's a building full of rooms.
Yeah.
I don't know. I've stayed at some really bad hotels, but I've stayed at very few good motels.
That's that's somebody asked us like, oh, is it Quality Inn? How is the quality? I was like, well, it was a quality.
The quality and Quality Inn is the light and the sign turned on for the most part.
Mm-hmm.
It didn't buzz real loud and blink. Does that count for anything?
Yeah. There was a bed.
There was a bed. I've stayed at places where that's even a stretch.
Yeah.
It's like, I think they intended this to look like a bed. It looks like a bed. It's shaped like a bed. It has things on it like a bed, but that's not a bed.
Yep.
Oh man. Yeah, that's been my long running joke for a long time is that someone asked me about going camping once and I said, my version of roughing it is my version of roughing it is a Motel 6. If I'm staying at a Motel 6 or something like that, then someone's done something really wrong in the planning section of whatever trip I'm on. And I mean really wrong.
I I don't I don't think we ever had a bad experience at a Motel 6, but I think we had Super 8. I think
So,
I think Super 8 was the bad one.
yeah. So it used to before my kids moved up here and then, and eventually ended up moving in with me. But before then, they were living with their mom down in Louisiana. And so for summers and holidays, I would drive down to Memphis, and then their mom would drive up to Memphis from Louisiana. We kind of meet. It ended up not being the middle. I ended up doing the bulk of the driving, but the idea was is that one person wouldn't have to do all of the driving type of a thing.
Yeah.
And that was fine. Like, okay, I anyway, the worst, I think it was a Motel 6 because it was cheap as shit. But it was just outside of Memphis, just off the highway. There was a truck stop and a strip club right next to it. And I think
Nice.
that was the only time I've ever ended up bringing my firearm into the bedroom, having it loaded and unsheathed on the nightstand next to me because I did not know what was about to happen. Like, and I'm not, I might be a, I have and I carry a weapon, but I'm not what you would call a gun guy or, one of those types. That's just not me. I occasionally carry, I own. I think that there needs to be a lot more safety, a lot more regulation, like a lot more. But
Hmm.
I have the training, I maintain training, et cetera, et cetera. I fully believe you go far enough left, you get your guns back, and that's where I'm at.
Yeah.
That all being said, I've never felt the need to have it that quickly accessible while I'm in bed or sleeping until that night. That was terrifying.
Memphis.
Oh my God. And not just Memphis, but outskirts truck stop of Memphis. I'm not saying truckers are inherently bad or wrong or anything like that, but you start mixing trucks and strip clubs and the seedy underbelly of Memphis on the southwest side, and you have a recipe trifecta that is not. I'm all about risk management. I'm not going to judge any one place over another, but I've spent enough time in the military doing risk management to look around at surroundings and go, I'm probably not in the best place on the planet at the moment. It's about time I employ some safety precautions on myself here.
Yeah. So speaking about guns,
Yeah.
there's just recently a ban on short barrels for ARs. Um, so I think, and I don't remember if he said, I was talking to my brother about it a little bit, and I don't remember if he said it was 16 or 18 inches. So any barrels under that length are now illegal, and you have to turn them in like within the next 60 days or something. And I was saying, like, yeah, yeah, and there's there's like there was just a ban on something not too long ago, There was like the butt stock ban and like the folding stock ban. I was like, buddy, we've long since passed the time where we needed like common sense gun reform. And now what you're going to see is all the parts and pieces of these weapons are going to get banned because nobody else is going to do anything. So they're going to start banning things. So you can't build these weapons anymore. Like period. So, and we'll probably even see like increased taxes on ammunition that'll make it hard to purchase like any sort of ammunition in bulk. And you won't get like you're gonna slowly see larger rifles and stuff just completely legislated away. Same with handguns. You're gonna start seeing all the parts disappear because you aren't going to do any other changes. So they're gonna make it super duper hard for you to build anything or have anything to like play with and have fun with because you're not doing anything otherwise. So if you would take a minute and like work on some common sense gun reforms, you know, focus on some mental health issues and get to some of the root causes of these shootings and such, this wouldn't happen. Like you wouldn't have to worry about, oh, is this part of my gun going to be banned in the next 6 months? Like, is this going to be banned?
Yeah, I see that to a certain extent, but I also I like whenever people start talking about slippery slopes, for example, of if we start allowing this to happen, then this is going to happen, and these chain reaction slopes, slippery slopes. I always kind of go back, okay, what happened in the past that we can kind of see how things went, and especially when it comes to government intervention. I'll use intervention because I don't like the term government control or interference, but government intervention.
Mm-hmm.
And the nice thing about the internet as it exists today that didn't exist when I was younger, even though we had the internet, was how much of the microfiche from past newspapers and everything else has been digitized and put online. You no longer have to go to a library that has these giant microfiche readers anymore to go read all this old stuff. You can find websites and archive places that have that available.
Mm-hmm.
And a fun little historical thing to go back through is to go look at all the hyperbole that surrounded what was going to happen when the government started requiring licensing to drive cars and insurance for vehicles.
Mm-hmm.
And then what happened again when they started mandating safety features.
Yeah.
And to a certain extent, when they started mandating certain safety features, it was a little bit harder to go buy all the pieces and parts to build a car. I'll give you that. But it didn't make accessibility to cars any less. The
Yeah.
cars that we end up having now, and we don't have access to all the cars, not everyone has the access to a race car. But if you have the funds, then you could get what would technically become race cars still on the road.
Yeah.
I don't see.
Everybody has the
I
access to it. That becomes a financial issue.
Yeah. And maybe a higher taxes and it being more expensive, maybe it would become a financial issue as well. But
Mm-hmm.
there's so much that we can do before we get to that point that would help so much, getting rid of. And a lot of people, I don't know if, because whenever someone says getting rid of loopholes at, say, gun show loopholes,
Mm-hmm.
People are very quick to point out that when you buy a gun at a gun show, that you're buying through a dealer, and therefore the all of the regulations and the ATF regulations all apply because they're dealers at gun shows. Because that's usually who's selling weapons at gun shows.
Mm-hmm.
What they don't tell you, and so, all the background check stuff or whatever the regulations that are required to go on there. There are many states, and Indiana is one of them, where a individual can sell a weapon to another individual without any checks, without anything. And especially here in Indiana, I am protected that if I were to sell, for example, a gun to you, as long as I didn't ask and you didn't tell me that you either lived out of state or that you were not legally allowed to have a weapon, as a seller, I'm protected. Nothing can happen to me for selling you a gun.
Mm-hmm.
So what you end up having is you go to these gun shows here in the state, and I've seen it multiple times, where people are walking around and they're either handing out flyers or they are they have like a list of guns on a backpack as they're walking around, and you go talk to them and you say, "Hey, I'm interested. Do you still have this, this, or this?" And then you walk out to the parking lot. He opens up his trunk and sells you the weapon. That's that is the reason why they call them the gun show loopholes. Is because I could do that. I could buy all the guns that I wanted, have a bunch of guns, and just ignore who I'm selling it to, because I'm not going to be prosecuted for anything. That if you say drove 20 miles over the state border from say Chicago and decided to buy 12 shotguns, 3 handguns, and 2 ARs from me, and then drive it right back over into a city or a place that you're not supposed to have them, nothing happens from that other than the person that bought the stuff.
Yeah.
And those kind of loopholes, I think, are horribly egregious. Every gun has a number on it. Every gun has a serial number, and they're all different because they have to be able to track back and contact people who bought these things based on that in case there's safety issues or whatever. I don't understand why we don't have a registration system where you can tie any handgun to an owner, just like you do with a VIN for a vehicle or something like that. That you can then figure out who is the owner of this, and then when there's a sale, you have to transfer that license over to the new owner.
Yeah.
That, to me, that is something. People are going to say, well, then you're just tracking owners. And I'm like, well, okay. And we do it with vehicles. We do it with every other instance of anything other than guns. And I don't understand why we don't do it with guns.
Yeah. I've even wondered about requiring an insurance on them.
An insurance would be... So an insurance is a little interesting, I think. I'm not sure what... that would cover. Because as much as people want to say that... And this is, like I said, I'm saying all this with a caveat is I own, I carry, and I enjoy sport shooting a lot.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know how insurance would protect anything.
Yeah, that's another argument, but it's similar to how our car insurance works. You'd either want to, like, I think it's called PLPD here. I don't remember what it stands for, which basically covers, like, if something happens and your vehicle causes damage to another person or other people's property, like same sort of thing. If something happens and your weapon causes damage to another person or causes some damage to a property, then you would be covered.
Here's my counter on that. And that is because we're and this is something that a lot of people would say that it's just a tool. The guns are a tool, hammer is a tool, screwdriver is a tool, a vehicle's a tool. What is the purpose of a vehicle? The purpose of a vehicle is to transport you from point A to point B.
Unless you're in Florida, and then it's to run over protesters.
I think that was Virginia, but yes.
Well, that's where it happened, but now Florida has the law where you can run over. Yeah.
But the primary designed purpose of the tool of a vehicle is to transport people and or objects that they place in it from one location to another. During the course of its designed purpose, accidents can happen, right? And that's where the insurance will come in to cover the accidents that happen. What is the designed purpose tool for a gun? It is to put a piece of metal into a living object to make it not living any longer. That is the designed primary purpose of a gun, is to end a life, whether it's a human life, whether it's an animal life. The designed purpose of the tool is to kill. So an accident insurance would be what then? Because if someone ends up dying or there's damage, well, that's the designed purpose of the object. People have figured out how to take an object that's designed for that and to go shoot at targets instead. And I get that. But the designed purpose of the tool is to kill. The more bullets that you can fit inside that tool means that all you're doing is altering that tool to either kill faster or more.
Yeah. And
more faster. That's the logic behind the high capacity bands and that kind of thing. It's like, and I'm not going to say what's right, what's wrong. I'm just going to address the whole it's just a tool thing, like a hammer. A hammer is a tool that is designed to put a nail into wood. The claw is probably there designed to pull a nail that was accidentally put in the wrong place into wood, or to remove the nail altogether. But a hammer's job as a tool designed is to drive a piece of metal into a piece of wood. That's the design purpose. Can it be used for other things? Absolutely. We do that with screwdrivers all the time. I don't know how many times I've used a screwdriver as a chisel, and I probably should, or a pry bar, and I probably shouldn't do that, but it happens because it's a chunk of metal, and I'm too lazy to go buy myself a small crowbar.
But so with the insurance, though, we'd be looking at more like accidental damage. Like, say I'm out here shooting. Like, say I hit like a rock, and a bullet ricochets and hits a window or something.
Yes.
Or, ricochets and hits a person. The ricochets hits a car driving by, something like that.
I would argue that the reason why I would argue that insurance would be very hard in that case is because you're already then utilizing the tool outside of the scope of which it was created to be used. Insurance.
Well, if I'm just target shooting, or say I'm out and I'm shooting some raccoons, because I have to do that every once in a while, but and
no, I understand. I'm thinking of it from I know how insurance companies are standpoint, and I don't know how they would be able to make. The only way they would be able to make back money from that is that the insurance was ungodly expensive. Which I'm now finding out that if you have a fucking kid, good luck, dude. Moment
Well,
that kid starts driving, holy shit, good luck.
Dave, have you ever seen those pictures on the internet where it has like those hillbilly families and they have like 30 some rifles?
Yeah.
That's where the insurance company would make their money, not on people like you and me, not people that have one car. The insurance companies make money on people like me where I have 4 vehicles and one of them's a like sport off-road vehicle, one of them's a race car, and then we have like a normal family sedan and a pickup truck. Like
Yeah, but
the insurance company makes plenty of money on me because I
but
have
that's
4 vehicles.
because you actually make the money to be able to afford to pay the insurance on all 4 of those vehicles. That
Yeah.
family that's got 12 kids and 9 teeth and all the rifles, they would not be paying for the extra vehicles that they only use sometimes.
Yeah, so
And they probably wouldn't be paying for insurance on a weapon either.
well, if you can't afford the insurance, you're probably less likely to have them sitting around.
I mean,
Is
my
that's
idea
the
is even
other
more
point of it.
extreme, but you know,
That's the other point of it is if you can't afford the insurance on 30 rifles, then you
don't own
probably don't
30
need 30
rifles.
rifles. Yeah. At best, you can use like 1 at a time. If 2, if you're not looking to aim or hit things in particular.
Yeah. Well, I've
Yeah.
started a new tactic while talking to the insane gun nuts because I understand how much fun it is to shoot a rifle.
Hmm.
I've had a lot of fun target shooting with rifles or whatever. But whenever I ask these people why they need a rifle and they say for home security, I usually laugh in their face and call them an idiot. Because if you were using a rifle for home security, you've already lost whatever battle you were about to start.
Hmm. Yeah, my rifle is not home security. Mine's for shooting the fucking raccoons that get into my chicken coop.
And honestly, if you're using if you've got a 7.62 or a 5.56 rifle for shooting a raccoon that's getting in there, you're also an idiot that loves
Yeah,
to waste money because you don't need anything bigger than a 22 to knock off a raccoon that's trying to get into some shit.
yeah. No, that's all I've got. I've got a Savage 22, and
Yep.
I know I can hit damn near anything with it.
That's why I
I
decided when I bought my handgun for, self-protection, home protection stuff, I went with a 9 mil
mm,
because I don't need something that's going to go through 2 walls and across the street. If someone kicks in my front door and comes in and I'm standing because where I'm standing coming out of my bedroom, I'll be facing the street with the dude right there. If I shoot if I shoot him with something much bigger than a 9 mil, it'll probably go through him and at least into the street.
hmm.
I don't have to worry about shooting the neighbors across the street because there's a hill thing that goes up right there. So I got a good backstop. But
I have a bunch of knives. That's my home defense because it'll be quiet. It'll make a minimal mess.
my biggest home deterrent is for that
Mm.
is I'm 5'9", 330 pounds, and I sleep naked. You see a big naked guy come lumbering out holding a handgun, you're probably leaving my house immediately. I figured I will terrify them. No one wants to fuck with the big naked guy yelling.
I don't know. You should see me turn my crazy eyes on. I I I had to do that at the bar a few weeks ago. There's some dude like just harassing everybody, grabbing everybody's asses. Like grabbed my ass, grabbed my friend's ass, grabbed another friend's ass, grabbed the bartender's ass, and then he was like his friend was trying to walk him out. He came over and grabbed me again. I turned around, shoved him into like there was a little kind of stage thing there where they had a DJ set up. I shoved him into that. and then turned around and just like turned my crazy eyes on. When I turned my crazy eyes on, it looks like Charles Manson. Like
Yeah.
I legit look like Charles Manson. And like his buddy looked absolutely terrified. And then we had another friend there who immediately was like arm drawn back. And I was just like, I popped up and stood up straight up, like full over 6 foot, which is a little taller than I am. And like crazy eyes on. I was like, you ready to fucking go, man? Then like dude just like was just stumbling there, like, I was like, yeah, yeah, and just staring at him with the big fucking crazy eyes turned on. And I think he questioned a whole lot of life choices.
A friend of mine
There's
did
a
that.
moment when you see that face and you're like,
Yep.
this guy's not all put together right.
So when we were stationed, when I was stationed in Virginia, when I first joined the ship, we were in the shipyards in Newport News. And the areas not far outside the shipyards was not the best area of town for crime and whatnot. And one of the guys I worked with, he got mugged. And he had one of the best defenses of getting mugged I'd ever seen in my life or ever heard of in my life. The moment that he got knocked into the alleyway and they had, whatever they had, he dropped his pants and started jerking it. And he said that they were so confused and had no clue what the hell to do that they just left. They were like, "Nah, we're done with this. This guy's insane. We're done."
Mug
And
me
he said
harder,
that
daddy.
ooh, can you cock back that gun again? I'm so close. God damn it. So Indiana
times.
done fucked up.
Mm-hmm.
Let me ask you this. If I were to say that there is a place out there where the state, the government, is going to sit down and decide that parental rights don't matter because of religious reasons, that they are going to dictate to parents how they will parent, how they cannot parent because of a religious reason, what would be the first thing that would come to your mind worldwide?
Indiana.
Probably wouldn't be Indiana. It would probably be a place where they don't speak the same language as we do, and there's a bunch of fucking sand.
Yeah, Indiana or like Iran.
And I'm not going to just call out Indiana because Indiana is just the latest in a long string of fucking states that are doing this.
What do you have? Also, like Arkansas, Florida, Texas, Iran.
I'm looking at it. I had the list right here a second ago because I'm fucking pissed.
I don't
Where
know
was this
because
thing?
there's even like some Middle Eastern countries that are better at that than what
Yeah,
Indiana is. So
no shit. All right. 12 states that have enacted laws. Okay, so what we're talking about is Indiana just signed a bill that is restricting any gender affirming care for minors. So anyone under 18. Not just without parental consent or without medical consent. I'm talking about regardless if you have medical consent or parental consent, it's completely fucking banned. Which is now somehow the Republican Party has gotten to a point where they say, fuck parental rights. We want the state to tell parents what they can and cannot do, which blows my goddamn mind completely growing up in this fucking party. 12 states, other states: Alabama, Arkansas, Arizona, Georgia, Idaho, Iowa, Kentucky, Mississippi, Tennessee, Utah, South Dakota, and West Virginia. Thank fuck that federal judges have blocked this in Alabama and Arkansas. But here's my thing. I have 2 transgendered kids. 2 of them. I am now at a position where I'm looking at my fucking state and I'm looking at family members that vote for these people who decide that I'm not a good enough parent because I don't parent based upon some twisted fucking view of a goddamn religious thing. And I'm sick of it. I'm sick of being told that I live in a theocracy, which I'm not supposed to be fucking living in, and that I have to dictate my life based upon a book that not only condones slavery, but instructs how to own and utilize slaves and how to sell your own fucking children into slavery. That's the book we're basing this off of. We're not basing it off of some high-end moral thing. The book we're basing these things off of is a fucking book that promotes slavery and how to treat your children as slaves and how to sell your wife and your kids into slavery in order to make God happy. And I'm not twisting any more than any of the fucktards that are going to come after me for this. Sorry, I'm fucking pissed. Because I don't know how much further it's going to go before I'm being told that my kids are going to get taken away from me because of who they are and because I'm their parent.
Mm-hmm.
I'm tired of this shit. I grew up in this system. They railed for years that the state was going to come after your kids if you homeschooled, that the state was going to come after your kids if you did anything that the state didn't like. And they're the first ones, and I might say the only fucking political party in this country that is going after children and going after the parents of children if they don't want to do what the state wants them to do. They've screamed for years that's what the liberals and Democrats want to do, even though they've never managed to pull it off, or even, as far as I can tell, really tried hard to do that. They've tried to be protective for education standards. I get that. I don't think, and I have to look this up, but I don't recall any states outlawing homeschooling.
Mm.
I don't think that's ever happened. There are restrictive.
Yeah.
There are certain regulations and restrictings, but I mean, I don't understand how we've gotten to this point. I'm at the point where I'm now having to come up with contingency plans for my wife to leave her job, for us to sell our house and move to another state if it gets to the point where I and my kids are suddenly going to become illegal overnight. Because of what? Because you don't like something? Because you think it's somehow broken off from your fucking book? No, I'm done with it. I'm sorry. I shouldn't be yelling at you because you're not the one, but I'm done.
You're just mad because I moved to Michigan first, and now we have secured those rights. And even as of yesterday, like reversed an abortion ban that was like 100 years old. So
It was not just an abortion ban 100 years old. It was in the state constitution.
Yeah. No, we reversed it though, so we're good.
But
and then we've also like put into the Constitution rights for LGBT people.
I don't get it. I don't understand how 5-8 years ago the same group of people that were screaming that Sharia law that was coming, that laws built off of a religious text that restrict the fucking freedom, and they ran on this platform and they screamed about this platform. And I've come to realize that anyone who's ever said that doesn't really care about Sharia law. It's not about laws based off of religion. It is fucking racism.
Mhm.
Because the moment that you do what you railed against, and the only difference is between white and brown, and you happen to be white and you were railing against the brown, I'm sorry, that is now a full straight up racist. And I'm not going to pull any punches anymore.
It always has been, Dave.
No, I know. But I'm not going to sit here and try to pretend that family members that I have that vote for this and that say this and then flip on that are not racist anymore.
Mm-hmm.
And there's no more excuse of, well, that was the way I grew up. You live in the fucking information age. There is no more excuse that you did not know because you were not taught. If you have a goddamn iPhone and you have communication with anyone outside of your house, you have education. You have the ability to look this up now. There is no more ignorance as a problem because there's no more willful. The only ignorance out there left on these issues is willful and not caring.
Yeah, because they were raised different, but they raised us different. So
Don't
it's
give a
possible.
shit about the raised different.
No,
20
I'm
years
saying,
ago,
Dave,
30
I'm
years
saying
ago.
they raised us different, which means they did something right somewhere along the line. They can't rely on that because they raised us and we're in that.
30 years ago, 30 years ago, I stopped doing a website for a politician because I felt like he was traveling too far liberal from where we were and from where I was growing up. That fucking politician was Mike Pence, the former vice president. If I could come from thinking that Mike Pence was too liberal for me to be doing business with to where I am today, ignorance and how you grew up is not a goddamn excuse for anything anymore.
Yeah.
These people want to talk about personal responsibility. Take some fucking personal responsibility for your own thoughts and actions. Stop trying to outlaw things that are cherry picked from your goddamn book. I'm done with it. People want to know why I'm not a Christian anymore. There you go. There you have it. People want to understand why I don't believe shit anymore. I'm done. I'm done with these people. I'm done with this shit. I'm done with the double standard, and I'm done with people being silent and letting them fucking get away with it because we don't want to offend anyone anymore. Guess what? Fuck you. I don't care anymore.
Fuck you, fuck you, fuck you. You're cool. Fuck you. I'm out.
You know, it's fucking, and maybe I should have gotten mad earlier and madder earlier about shit. And I'm going to apologize now that I haven't been this pissed off before. But now you're dealing with my kids. You made it fucking personal.
Yeah.
It's now 100% personal.
Dave, that's why there's a big push to move people into blue states. Or not blue states, purple states.
That's the thing that pisses me off too, is that this only happens and is allowed to continue to happen because good people flee that and they're no longer around to stop it. You either have fucking apathy, which I'm not letting fucking Xers off the hook on this one. The most apathetic generation on the fucking planet. You guys know better. You just want to sit there and shut up about it. And I'm tired of that. Even us millennials, yeah, we'll sit here and scream about it, but we've got nothing. We do nothing else about it. We're the fucking voting block age right now, and we're not fucking doing anything about it.
Hey, don't break your desk.
Jesus Christ, I'm pissed off.
Why don't you come up and shoot some guns with me?
God damn. It's actually a fucking good idea.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know what's going to stop it. That's the thing. As long as people are apathetic, like, oh, it doesn't affect me. Well, it doesn't affect you yet. Buckle up, because it's about to. They're pushing to see what all they can get away with, and they're pushing a little bit further, and a little bit further, and a little bit further. And as long as they can justify anything by screaming that it's in the fucking Bible, guess what? Slavery's back, because there's nothing that says that that is wrong, immoral in the scriptures. Nothing.
Mm-hmm.
God, that felt good to get you to yell about that. One question for you, though, before we end up going.
Okay.
What do you call a transgender man who only eats salad?
I don't know.
A herbivore. Thank you for letting me get that off my chest. I know I warned you ahead of time, but thank you for that.
And I was looking at the time and I was like, oh shit, we're almost to an hour. We got through and didn't get to his topic.
Oh no.
And
I
I was
wasn't
like,
going to let it go.
I was like, I'm gonna have to sneak in a wrap up. And then you were just like, nope, we're going hard. I'm gonna go hard.
I didn't want to go off early on because I don't know how to follow that up other than a lot of these bands, and don't even get me started about the goddamn fucking book banning parade that they're trying to fucking do. For every one of these goddamn adults that told me when I was a kid that fucking China was terrible because they banned fucking books, that Hitler was evil because he was banning books that disagreed with what they wanted. For every one of you fuckers that told me that, go fuck yourself, because you're doing it now. Mm-hmm. That being said, the people that are initiating that shit are school boards, city councils, local goddamn politics. If you're upset about that and you're not getting involved by voting for low ticket stuff because my vote doesn't count because it's all fucking rigged, do you know why it feels like it's rigged? Because you don't vote and the other side does. No, they will come out in droves to elect a shit school board.
Do you know why it's rigged? Gerrymandering. And
gerrymandering does not count when it comes down to school boards in a city.
That's true. But let me tell you about what happened here in Michigan. So Michigan has I think we call it people's initiatives. And I've said a long time, like, more states need this ability where any person can put together a law, and then you can go to the petitioning board. You could say, hey, I want to petition this to make it a law. So then you can collect signatures. Like, you can petition and collect signatures. And if you get enough signatures, it'll go on the state ballot. So in 2018, we did that. We said, hey, all of our districts are gerrymandered to shit. We need an independent board that draws up our districts and our voting districts. And we created a people's initiative, got the signatures, got it on the ballot. It was on the ballot in 2018. We voted and it won. And now we have an independent commission that draws up the districts that are way less gerrymandered than what they were before. And now we saw in the 2020 election and in 2022, what'd you see happen here, Dave?
Yep.
We saw
a state legislature that was built upon the wills and wishes of the people.
Yep.
And as much as I think that gerrymandering is absolute shit and terrible, There are a handful of elected systems that, and even on the bigger scale, that gerrymandering does not touch. Governor and US Senate are the two big
Hmm.
ones.
Hmm.
If you want to see how, if consistently your state legislature is 5-1 Republican and the governor is a Democrat, then you've done fucked up. And the reverse is true too. If your state legislature is 5-1 Democrat and you have a Republican governor, then you're gerrymandered to hell, and that should be illegal. Even 3-1.
Yeah, and
If
that's where Michigan was before.
Yeah,
Was we had a Democratic governor who won by a landslide, but we had all of the districts were so gerrymandered that you couldn't get anybody in there. So we fixed it, and now we're making progress again. But like places like Indiana does not have that people's
no,
initiative where you have the ability where you could do that sort of thing. Which is also why I'm pretty big on, like, you don't have a real voice there. Move to Michigan. Michigan's still pretty purple. Like
no. At the
we went
state
all
house,
blue, but
I don't have that voice.
yeah.
But but when it comes to school boards and it comes to shit getting banned in and out of schools or in and out of libraries, that is a city by city, county by county decisions. None of that
Hmm.
is happening at a statewide level. All of that is happening at a local level. And a lot of times, like here in Indiana, those elections are off year elections. Like this year, 2023, not when Congress and state representative and the federal government, it's its own separated election system. We
Hmm.
vote for mayor, we vote for city councils, we vote for school boards. If you don't know who the people are that are running, fucking find out. There's always open venues where you can go talk to these people, get a hold of them, find out what you're getting yourself into.
Yeah.
But please get involved. If you are 18 or older, get involved. Even if you're under 18, campaign, talk to people. Your voice is so important. But do that.
Yep.
And I'm done before I blow another gasket because we're now pushing an hour on this thing.
Yeah.
And I don't know where else to go from here other than start repeating what I was saying and getting louder and angrier.
Yeah. Well, I'm gonna get you convinced to move to Michigan so we can like do all sorts of this shit. I'm gonna start sending you house listings today. So yeah.
No, don't worry. The wife and I have been sending each other house listings for the last 3 months.
Oh, it better be close to me, or I'm gonna be pissed.
um, because my family, my dad, my stepmom just moved out here from California. We're trying to stay as close to the border as possible, so we're not too far away.
I'm close to the border.
Yeah, I know. Anyway, thanks for listening to the rambling. I know it's just get your voice heard, people, please. We'll see you guys next week.
Later.